It's authentic.
Hey, y'all. What's the vibes? We're back. We're back in this thing. Welcome back to Hear Us Out, the music and media blueprint brought to you by myself and my girl Lottie. Today, we have a special guest. What's good, Yan? What's good, Yan?
No,
Thank you for joining us.
thank you guys for having me. Oh my God, it's been such a long time following Lottie. It's just really great to finally be in a space with her. And you as well. I'm so nice to meet you.
Yes. Nice
We're
meeting
so
you
excited to
too,
have you. You're
girl.
like,
Liddy.
no, like you're low key been one of my favorite people in the industry for like ever. So I'm just like, we finally get to sit down and chizat. So it's gonna be cute.
Thank
It's gonna be
you. I
super
appreciate
cute,
that.
super cute. So, for those of you who are just now joining us, it's your first time. Welcome to Hear Us Out. This is a show where we provide the music and media blueprint. How do you navigate the entertainment, music, media industries, all that good stuff? And in this season, season two, we're talking about building currency creatively. So, we tapping in with some dope creatives, some entrepreneurs, some execs, you name it. And we just having some currency combos about how to make all these things shake. So shout out to y'all for tapping in. We're excited to get into it. So, Jan, what's good? Tell us, how do you identify creatively and professionally in the world of music and media?
So separate from my role, I would consider myself a tastemaker in the music landscape. Um, Professionally, I am a R&B programmer for Pandora Music. I also lead African programming and Caribbean programming as well. In the R&B space, I work alongside Akeem Bryant. He is the head of R&B, and I've been there for 2.5 years.
Incredible. Doing the damn
Fire.
thing. And don't tell me how I knew, but I already knew you was gonna identify yourself as a tastemaker because that's been your reputation. No, like, but for real though, before you even started the Pandora job, like you've been known as a tastemaker. Like people just really trust your opinions when it comes to different things, whether it's recommending the artist to listen to or what songs are hot of the week or whatever. I would love to discuss more how you built your brand to be known for this expertise before you even got that job?
Ooh, that's such a loaded question because I feel like there's not like a cookie cutter way to be a tastemaker. I think you just have to be yourself and people have to trust you for the things that you like and the things that you're co-signing and the things that you're sharing. Um and like I think it took a really long time to get to a place where people were coming to my page to be influenced, for lack of words. Because I know like when I first got on Twitter, I can honestly say I think I built like the first couple thousand followers being like I hate niggas type. Like that was my whole brand. Everything was like I was like number one man basher. Everything was men suck and here's all the reasons why. um, I was very much scorned in a relationship, so that was my whole thing. Pretty reckless, not gonna lie. And then over time I just kind of I balanced out. Like I didn't center myself on men, and then I kind of just became a person. Um, Granted, in real life, music was always a part of me. It just wasn't necessarily something that I built a brand per se on. So for example, in high school, I was in the choir. I was in a jazz band. I played piano. These are things I've been doing all my life. I went to college for vocal uh performance as well as piano. So my degree, I have a minor in music, but like that was never anything that I kind of incorporated into my brand. It just was things that I did. Um, but then it had to be like 2013, I want to say, when I moved. I originally went to school down south, and I moved back to Jersey. When I moved to Jersey, I became a podcast host. And that podcast was centered on music. And I think at that point is when I started really kind of showcasing the things that I liked musically and artistically, because the podcast was hosted under this production company called Dinnerland. which showcased a bunch of different artwork. So it kind of just was up from there. And I think how I branded myself was really just being me. Because anybody can tell you, like, if you go to my page, I don't think anyone would be able to say, like, she's a music person only, or an art person, or a spiritual person. Like, I'm not, you can't put a label on what I'm influencing. It's literally just whatever I'm thinking, that's going to be what I tweet about or share about or talk about or whatever. And that's what you're going to get for the day. So yeah, I guess just being myself.
I love hearing about the journey because I actually didn't even know that you started on Twitter like that. That's hilarious.
Girl, yes.
But it's real. It's very real. But that's what attracts people, right? It's like the real. Like people rock with that, and and like you said, you build that trust, and they're just like, okay, like I like what this girl talking about, regardless of what the topic is. Like she's just saying it how it is.
Yeah, and to be honest, like to that point, that's always been something I kind of tussled with mentally throughout my career, and I feel like it kind of is one of the reasons why it took so long to get to the point where I'm at now, because I never kind of solidified, like, this is my brand, this is what I talk about, this is what I do. And I do understand that that is the best method to success in these spaces. Like, if I want to be a music influencer, then I probably should be talking about music for the most part. Or if I was trying to be a fashion girl, like, if you come to my page, it should be a lot of fashion related things. So I think for me, I've always struggled with just trying to kind of put myself in one specific box, because I just and that's not to say anybody who is an influencer in whatever space they're in, that's all that they're about. But it's always been a struggle for me to gear everything I do to one direction. And I think it hindered me in the long run, but eventually I got to where I was trying to go. So it's kind of just like, whatever, is what it is.
I feel you on that so heavy. It's funny because people will even go to my social media and they'll be like, I can't tell what you do because you got like 7 different titles. And I'm like, yeah, because I encompass all these things.
Period.
Can't put me in no box. Like,
ain't no boxing.
So I hear you on that. But listen, I want you to know it's really our time. Like the multifaceted, multi-hyphenate, multi-interest people. Like it's our time. Like,
it is. It is. It's our time to shine. It's always been our time. It's just, yeah,
okay.
That's it. That's all it is, for sure. For sure. No, so okay. So you gave us a little bit.
You're a full person.
For sure. Most definitely. So you gave us a little bit of context too on just how you kind of basically right now you laid the land of like how you built your personal brand, which is inclusive of like your personal preference, but then also your professional, right? Talk to us a little more about the actual, like, your actual career journey. Like, what were the steps that you took to get to where you are right now, especially because you talked about the fact that like you did some personal pivots where it was like, you know what, I'm just doing me, I'm being me, I know what I like, I know what I want to do, and I'm gonna figure out how this manifests, if you will. But like, in terms of your current role, right, how did you get there? And also, to add to that, how did you know when that was like when you wanted to like just really go for it in this lane?
Oh, so unironically, my career path literally mirrors my branding path, for lack of words. Like, my career path is all over the place. And basically, so once I first graduated, I never had an internship or anything in music. And I know that also hindered me because I kind of see the pipeline from internship to music industry. And I definitely can honestly say I did not do that work to build relationships with other music industry professionals or people who aspired to be in the music industry while I was in college. Like, I literally was just doing my own thing and floating around and enjoying life. So once I graduated, I knew I wanted to work in music. Like, I knew I wanted to work in music since I was like 12. But there were no doors open for me. So out of college, I had to just figure out a job, and I started teaching. So So I was teaching in Trenton, 6th and 7th, 8th grade. I was working with the behavior disorder kids, and so I was teaching them math, social studies, science. They were pretty much in my class for the whole day. Loved those kids, hated that job, frankly. um, and from there, because I also was doing the podcast that started in college, so that was something I was doing consistently even after graduating. So while I was teaching, I would spend my weekends or my Fridays in New York still trying to build relationships and just kind of being in the mix. So I had followed this account. At that point, I had no clue what they did, Dinnerland. And Dinnerland posted a tweet like, we're looking for people to help us build our network. And just out of curiosity, I'm just like, oh, let me hit them up because this looks kind of cool. The graphic I'll never forget because it was kind of weird, but it was interesting, and the graphic had their phone number and their email, and it was like basically like, y'all pick how y'all want to communicate with us. And I was like, I'm gonna call. So I called, and we ended up having like a long hour conversation about everything I do, and then he kind of shared what he's trying to build with that brand. And it turned into them asking to bring our podcast onto the network as one of their content features. And then 2, them asking me to be their editor because they didn't have somebody to manage their website or their social media. So it was just up from there, just off a phone call. And I to this day, like, I'm so grateful for the trust that they instilled in me because I still can't believe it became all of that off of one phone call. So Dinnerland was a production company. We essentially were music centered, entertainment centered. We were creating video and visual content for podcasts. Like, we did work with Combat Jack and the Complex Network. Rest in peace, Combat Jack. We were hosting a bunch of different events in the city, particularly Brooklyn. Like, we had this one series called Good People Link Up, and we would invite a lot of music industry professionals who were emerging to essentially just come connect and share the work that they're doing, which is how I met a lot of the people that I'm friends with now. And then we also did a lot of open mics. So through the open mic series I knew Joe from AudioMac. He heads up marketing before AudioMac was AudioMac. So he was like, well, we're building this thing. We'd love to have you come on as a curator for the Jersey playlist, because I was curating music for the podcast at the time. So I was like, yeah, cool. So that turns into me being contracted for AudioMac, and then I was on contract playlisting for them for 4 years, and that contract ended literally a year ago. I think it was a conflict of interest, and we realized like, we can't be. I work at Pandora. But yeah, so that was what I was doing, but that still didn't lead into a music role. It just was a contract. So Dinnerland, because we were a video production company, they were being sought out by just other companies in New York just to produce content, even if it wasn't music related. So there was this nonprofit called Catal Center. They were working on criminal justice reform, and they needed video content. So they hired Dinnerland. Also didn't have a social media manager, so I offered to roll out the content that we produced, and that turns into my next job. Because they're like, well, we want to hire you. You did a great job on social. So they brought me in as their director of communications, and I then leave teaching to now work in Brooklyn, working on criminal justice reform. Totally unrelated to music, no ties to it at all. But it was a great learning experience because even though it was a startup company, it was corporate culture. And prior to anything I've done there, I'd never had experience working in the corporate space or having to do press releases or anything like that. Like, I had the college experience because I went to school for it, but never had a role. So the the work was really heavy because we're literally working on criminal justice reform. Like, we got a bill passed and everything. It's called Less is More New York, if you guys ever want to check it out. Essentially, it reduces the amount of things that police officers can reincarcerate people for once they're on parole. Because people were getting reincarcerated for things like having a dirty piss test, which could be anything. It doesn't necessarily mean they're on drugs. So we passed that into law, and then pandemic hits. Once the pandemic hits, mind you, for context, this entire time I'm miserable after about a year because I want to work in music. I'm like, I took this role because I need money because my student loans was crazy, so I had to pay it somehow. But end of the day, I want to work in music. This is a great job, cool, great pay, but like, no. So once the pandemic hits, I was like, I'm moving to LA, y'all. Because we were all thinking the pandemic was going to be like a month long thing. Nobody could have foreseen that pandemic was going to last for them 2 years. However, I just thought it was an opportunity. Like, if we didn't have to be in the office, then I don't have to be in Jersey or New York. I can go wherever I want, and then I can work remotely. But they didn't agree. So once I moved to LA, they end up letting me go because I had to be in Brooklyn, quote unquote. And then the pandemic ends up lasting for 2 years. And it's like, well, y'all didn't have to fire me. But okay, another story. So throughout the whole 2 years of the pandemic, I was in LA jobless. Transparently, I did not have a job. I thought it was going to be so easy to land the music role because of the influence that I had built online and all the different relations I built with Dinnerland, but it just wasn't clicking. So then one day, well, before I get there, I will say, so throughout the 2 years, I was steadily building my own brand and creating playlists and brands around playlists online to kind of stay in the mix, even though I didn't have an official role. And literally off those playlists, I just got an email one day like, yo, Pandora's hiring for a curator, and I think you'd be great for that because you do these playlists anyway. So they set up an interview with me and Akeem. We had one call. Like, this one call thing has been like my whole life, and it's so weird. Like, we had one call, and off that one call, he was like, yeah, I want to bring you on. You have some tough competition, but something about you that I really, really like, and I feel like we would be great teamwork together. And it's up ever since then. So I've worked in LA at Pandora for about 2-3 months, and then I was just like, I'd rather be in New York. And I moved back, and I've been here ever since.
Okay, talk about pivots.
What a
talk
story.
about dedication,
What a
hard
story.
work plus patience. Okay, Nipsey.
Okay,
Talk
come on,
about
One call.
Right.
Okay,
I'm
so,
LA native.
So real
LA
quick though,
native right here.
though.
So
Real quick though.
Hey.
what?
Yan,
Did
when
she
you write
just-
your book or have your documentary, please call it one call, like begging you.
one
Oh my
call.
God.
Coin it. One call.
Period. You know what? Name
One
of the
call,
episode.
Yan.
One call. One call. That's the name of the episode. Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. What? I'm
And
sorry.
again, it's a testament to taste. Because the credentials might
Because
not
when
have
it's
been there, or
there-
the experience might not have been there, or the this, that. But
Period.
they heard you on the phone and they was like, oh, we need her.
Literally.
And
need
what's
her.
meant for
so
you is
shocked
already
because-
yours. Don't matter. What?
Yeah.
That's fire.
And I
That's
think
fire.
that was what was crazy to me because I was
Yeah.
interviewing with Spotify at the time, and that interview process, it had been 3 or 4 months at that point. So to go from a 3 or 4 month
Right.
interview process to then one phone call and he's like, yeah, I'm hiring you. I was like, whoa.
But you know
That's
what?
it.
The crazy part is that is so on brand. It's definitely on brand for the entertainment industry, but specifically like music on a low key, like working for a corporation tip. That's so on brand. The hiring process is so long. Like it's so long. I have some friends who worked in music. They like, man, I was interviewing for 6 months. Like it just is what it is, and it's big on we're gonna find the person with the taste. We're gonna find the person with but what's for you is for you. And your story alone is just proof of all of that. Like that is insane. That is insane. The twists and turns.
And you're,
like
you're
you
where
said, I
you're
went
supposed
from
to be, you know?
right. You landed exactly. You just stayed true to the fact that. And okay, so wait. There's so many things I want to say. So let's back up to the smartest thing, because this is still a show. We keep it so real on Hear Us Out, as you see. Like, but our whole purpose, which you literally just summed up in your journey, the whole purpose of this show is to give people those, not just the generic tips and advice of like, okay, how do you navigate such a complicated industry that doesn't really have like one way to do anything. And the thing that you did that set you up for the most success was that you kept focusing and kept making the thing that you were passionate about throughout the entire process. You were not working in music.
Yeah.
You were not curating playlists for anybody and getting paid for it. You were not doing any of that, but you were still making them so that when the opportunity came, they was like, where's the playlist at? Which one you want? Like, I heard you was making
that
playlists.
part.
Let's get on the call. Oh, bet. Which one did you like? Because, I had like 20. So what's up? Which one were you listening to? What got on your, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, at the end of the day, if the opportunity isn't there, you created the opportunity for yourself because you just kept being consistent. and you had a whole portfolio at the time that you had your last one call and got to the land the job that you've been trying to do. So come on, like that was such a fire. I didn't know where it was going. I didn't. I was like,
yeah,
wait,
nobody.
did she say
Thing
criminal
is, like,
justice
nobody
reform?
ever knows.
Like,
yeah, everybody be like,
what
huh?
just happened? I was like, okay, how
And
did
the
she
crazy
get the job
part
from
is-
criminal justice reform? Who put her? I'm confused. Where are we about to go? Like, fire.
And then in all of this, it's funny because I'm thinking about it. I completely forgot like a huge piece of the puzzle too, which was also a side thing. I helped Chase and Cash build his brand, so that was another thing that kind of was pivotal for me getting known in the industry as somebody like who was a creative.
That's how I got to know about you, actually.
So he actually, I met him through Dinnerland because at the first he was trying to do, well, he still does, but he was trying to put music out. So he saw what I was doing with Dinnerland. He was like, yo, I would love to somehow release through y'all. So he's in an exclusive video release through Dinnerland, and then obviously he released it everywhere else after. And then from there it was just up. Like we just became really tight. And then he started trusting my takes on a lot of stuff that he was working on because he then was gonna put out an album. So I was like, well, I A&R. So he was like, well, then if you A&R, then A&R my album. So he let me sequence his album. And then from there, like the reaction to it was pretty well. And I think that kind of solidified our bond as just creatives working together on something. So he brought his brand to me like, well, I have this brand and like it's doing all right, but I feel like it needs to be tightened up, and I'm willing to trust you with it to see what we could do. So he gave me all his logins, and then I built a Twitter account for Can't Buy Respect and tightened up the brand, made the socials look good. Decided that we was gonna focus on more of a fan or customer rather centered approach to our posting. So a lot of the posts are either lookbooks or they're literally fan and customer content. Rather than trying to just create all these different graphics and keep posting creative graphics all the time. So the Can't Buy Respect account, it was building really quickly because we had all these people that were just like, oh, well, I got a picture of my shirt, you gonna post it kind of thing. And people like that. And the shirt, so we came up with the Not For Sale t-shirt. That was one of the first things we came up with because I had put that in our bio. Can't buy respect because it's not for sale. So then that became the slogan. And then that shirt went crazy. We had that
Literally.
on Beyond. Yeah, that shit was everywhere.
Not For Sale went literally insane. This is fire.
Listen, I got a piece. So I'll let you know right now. I got a hoodie.
Literally. Insane.
And it was just dope because it literally just came from building the socials. I'm just like, well, what can the tagline on socials be? Like, can't buy respect. Why can't you buy it? Because it's not for sale. Boom. That's the slogan. And he ran with that shit like, yo, that's hard. We will put that on a shirt. So yeah, like now it's been featured on Beyonce's website, Kendrick Lamar award, who else? Andre 3K award. Like it's so many people that wore that slogan. It's insane to think about. But yeah, I'm not working with him anymore on that brand, but that was something that was super important to me at the time that we built it, and I love Chase to death. That is my boy. So yeah.
So fire.
That's my past.
Man.
Wow.
Man.
Like
your range of skills is really interesting because like brand building is huge, and you've been able to do that for yourself and other people and other corporations, and that's then again it comes down to taste.
Okay, period.
That's the through line. That's the consistency right there. No matter what you're doing, the taste.
Yeah. And I never thought of it that way. I'm actually glad you said that. Thank you.
Come on.
So we got a few working book and documentary titles. Taste.
At
the
this
Yan
point.
Snead story.
Yeah, literally just
one call. You know?
One call, like we're
Taste
just
can't
the chapters
buy it,
are writing
can't replicate
themselves.
it, can't.
Okay, like
listen, girl, I got you on the editing process. We go tap me in.
And then let us know when you're ready to get the promo. We got you, okay? Just you feel me? Here's I was there. All right, we were present. What you need, we got it for you, okay? Very like no, this is super fire.
Speaking of taste, though, like obviously that's something that's so important when it comes to curation, which is essentially what you're doing when you're programming, right? It's like you're getting these playlists together or these stations together for listeners, what kind of factors are you considering when you're selecting songs or sequencing them? Like, how do you create these cohesive listening experiences?
So it's kind of twofold, right? Like, so for the most part, the things that I'm heavily championing, it literally is just a feeling. Um, I feel like music should make you feel something, and if it doesn't, then y'all could do whatever y'all want with that, but I'm not doing anything with that. Because I feel like there's other opportunities that a lot of artists can take advantage of, and that has nothing to do with me. Like, I truly believe in my gut when it comes to a lot of these records that I'm pushing. And a lot of the times I'm right. I don't think I've ever been wrong about a record yet. And I say that respectfully, like, I have never been wrong about a record. Have I missed some records? Yes, but the ones that I promoted, I've never been wrong about. But I feel like outside of that, what I'm looking for is literally just quality across a lot of different aspects of the production of it, right? Like, are the lyrics quality? Is the production itself quality? Like, the vocals, are they mixed well? Like, does it sound muddy, or does it sound like a record that can go to radio right now if it was ready to go there? Also, like, does this match the time period we're in? Like, there's a lot of times where people will submit really great songs to me and I'll still program them, but they might not necessarily match. We're in spring right now, so why are you sending me fall, winter records? Like, you're not going to get the type of acclaim and reaction from it that you would if you dropped it in the right time. So I'm also looking for that. Like, does this record fit the time period, or the season that we're in, rather? I'm sorry, I couldn't figure out the word I was looking for. The season that we're in.
No, you're right. Yeah, is it giving hot girl summer? And if not,
yeah,
right. Because if it's giving summer, it has to go up in the summer.
Exactly.
Like, and that could literally. The funny thing that you said. Ooh, I hope you guys are okay. I hope you all are really taking notes right now as you're watching this episode, because what she just said is, like, y'all talk to us all the time when you tap in. And you give us all the questions that you have about the record, and then you let us listen to it. What Yan just said is like the biggest. It's a gem. It's a key. It's a hack. It's all the things. It's like the timeliness, the timing of when you release that single, when you trying to promote that single, means just as much as your passion and your excitement and your joy for it. She just gave you a fire, like, breakdown of, like, yo, if it's a summer bop, like, it's gonna hit. It's gonna make the girls move. It's gonna make the dudes feel it. Like, we drop it. Like, pay attention to that, y'all. Okay? Because there's so many gems that are being dropped at this point. I don't even know what else to do other than to just amplify what she's saying. But yeah, like, that was the one right there. You know, like, when y'all calling in and you're like, can you give me some advice on this record? Think about what was just said, for sure.
Because people are always trying to figure out, like, the hacks to, like, get stuff to curators. And I love what you said about it. Quality.
Okay,
quality.
Girl.
Quality.
Also, just listening to direction. If we're talking about getting stuff to curators in particularly, and not necessarily what I'm looking for, pay attention to directions. I just posted a week ago asking for hip hop records that were non-explicit. I put that in the tweet in caps. Non-explicit hip hop records. I would say the first
profanity
15,
in the first 5 seconds.
The first 15 songs that I listened to had E. They had explicit E tags on them. Like, what do y'all think the E stand for?
Not it said it on the album cover and on the... But also, just really quick on listening to instructions, there's nothing funnier when a curator asks for songs, and you can tell what company they work at. It be in their bio. Why are you dropping Audio Mac links for someone who works at Spotify?
That was
Why are you dropping YouTube
Pandora
links for someone who works at...
Yeah, that was in the tweet too. It said Pandora.
Give yourself a chance to win. Like, give yourself a chance.
Literally, I understand wanting to shoot your shot.
Before.
Hello? And that's the thing, because we're big proponents of shooting your shot here. Y'all know we tell you to shoot your shot all the time on Hear Us Out. However, if there are instructions that you're supposed to follow when you are literally making it happen, please just follow them. They're there for a reason. And honestly, unfortunately, there's a character limit on X, aka Twitter. So she may not be, all these curators may not even be able to go into the detail of why they're giving you these instructions. Just follow them and trust them, okay? Because that's the key. See, I love it. So, okay. now that we're talking, you just saying instructions reminds me. So on a data point, right? So you've been curating these playlists well before you joined Sirius, Pandora, all of that, right? So you've been curating these
Mhm.
playlists. Cool. Bet. Now you're at Pandora, you're doing your you're making all this magic. Can you tell us a little bit about how, like, number one, feedback from listeners, but then number two, like analytics and data, how does that come into, does that affect your programming strategies? And if it does, like, can you give us an example of how it may have had an influence on how you were curating a playlist?
Absolutely. So when I talk about, I do heavily lean into how I feel about things, but there's sometimes where I also include things that listeners like, and that comes from the data I'm getting from social media. Like, what are people talking about? Like, I think part of being a tastemaker in general, regardless of what we're talking about, music, fashion, whatever, is being very on top of social listening and just seeing what people are gravitating towards. And if I don't like a record, but everybody else does, then it probably should be on the playlist. Because listeners, there's a reason why people like it, whether I like it or not. Um, which is why I can kind of see to some degree, and I'm not saying this as a cosign because I disagree with it on so many levels, but I can see why labels lean into what works on TikTok, because that's almost a guarantee that fans enjoy something. But where that falls short is you don't know if they're going to be able to replicate this. And a lot of times what works on TikTok doesn't work outside. So yes, it's viral, but nobody cares about it in real life. And I feel like that happens a lot. And then on top of that, a lot of these artists on TikTok, they're not necessarily developed acts. So they're not really, they don't know how to be artists. They're just great with making content that goes viral. And that doesn't sell records. So to your question though, where data influences programming, for me, it doesn't influence it at all initially. Like when I'm looking for songs to place on a program station or anything like that, I'm not necessarily, I don't care how many followers you have, I don't care how many streams you have, like that doesn't actually mean anything to me. You could have 0 streams and 2 followers, the song is good, the song is good. However, once that stuff goes into rotation, I am tracking the performance on the platform. So we have the ability to track scores on songs because Pandora has thumb up and thumb down, which other platforms don't, because we operate like radio. So Pandora gives every single song on platform a score based on the completion rate, the skip rate, and the thumb up and thumb down. So if your song is getting skipped every time somebody hears it, I can't do nothing else with that because they don't like it. Maybe I liked it, but they don't like it, and sorry, try again next time. And that's kind of, that would be the end of the road for that song because I can't do much with something that people don't like. On top of the fact that because it has a low score, the algorithm is not going to play the song anyway. Um, on the flip side, if I program a song and the score, it starts scoring highly, not only will the algorithm start taking it to other stations without me even having to program it, it now gives me the justification to program it more heavily because the audience that I've put it in front of likes it, which means I could find more placements for it. So when the score looks good, I'm using that data to find other places to put that song, whether that be editorial stations, or if you're not familiar with Pandora, we have artist stations like Chris Brown Radio, Mariah Carey Radio. So whenever a song comes out, I can find a station with a similar sound and put the song in rotation on that artist station as well. So for example, like T.A. Thomas releases a song, I can put that song on Chris Brown Radio, Tank Radio, anything that kind of sounds in the same vein as T.A. Thomas. So when those songs do well on editorial, that's what I'm looking for. Like, where else can I place this strategically to grow the streams and the listenership?
Wow. I really appreciate you sharing all this because I think a lot of times when it comes to especially playlisting, like you'll see a lot of artists, predominantly independent artists, talk about how curators don't be taking chances, like all they care about is numbers. But I really love hearing the actual like nuance and thought that goes into leveraging that
Mm-hmm.
data, right? Because it's really about listenership, right? It's
Yep.
radio at the end of the day. So it's like if people rock with it, and this is true for traditional radio too, terrestrial radio. If people rock with it, you're going to hear it more. People don't
Mm-hmm.
rock with it, you're not going to hear it as much. So it really, it all checks out.
And to that
Yeah.
point too, like I always kind of dub those conversations because my entire role here, like the reason why you're hearing Pandora more in conversations in the R&B and hip hop space is literally because a lot of the work that I'm doing to program acts that nobody has heard of. So it's like when I hear, oh, curators aren't taking chances, like, well, y'all not tapped in then, because I'm taking chances every week. I don't know what to tell you.
Let me tell you something, because I am a Pandora girly.
Come on, no.
Let me tell you something, because I am a Pandora girly. Yeah. And the crazy part is, you program all the stations that I actually really listen. I mean, I'm a listener of a lot of genres, but you literally program all the stations that I listen. When something comes on Pandora, and I'm like, this is on Pandora? Then it got me thinking. Then I'm like, dang, maybe they bigger than I thought they were. No, they not though. It's still low key. That mean, who is doing? Yo, in her bag, like. So I agree though with that sentiment though. Oh, for sure, I gotta give you flowers for sure. And I think it's, I think that's one of the tricky parts of where we are right now with like just streaming in general and having so many, and this is across the board. This is not even music specific. I guess you could say criticism or critique. It's not even music specific, because I feel like it about TV and film as well, where we have so many places to go to consume content. So once you go down a list of, if I'm listening to radio stations, for example, on Apple Music, and I'm on Tidal, and I'm on Spotify, and I'm on SoundCloud, and then I'm also frequenting Pandora, if I go through the first three and I have the same similar experience, I'm about to just say all of them are trash. And I feel like that's what's happening, is that, same thing on TV film. It's like, how many of y'all are about to make a streaming platform for me to watch TV and pay for it? So now I gotta go get Paramount, I gotta go get Stars, I gotta go get HBO, I gotta go get Amazon, I gotta go get Netflix. Like, it's the same thing. And so I feel like that's kind of where this narrative about the like curation is trash on these playlists, like blah, blah, blah. But it's like, are y'all trying everything for real? Are you actually giving it a chance? Or is this like a one size fits all opinion that actually cannot be given to everybody because everybody's thing is different? So I just want to say that, because Pandora, I'm a Pandora girly. I stand Pandora through and through. Like, it's definitely, but it's really dope to hear you give us this context, because we don't hear this part of the conversation, especially as it pertains to like data and listeners, and like how their usage of the app affects what's going on the app on a technical front, but then also just on a user experience front, for sure. So let's talk about
that same
it.
point too. What I will say is a lot of these artists aren't even engaging with the platform. So it's like, you don't even realize your stuff is getting curated. There's so many artists where I put hundreds of thousands of streams on their songs, and they get 10,000 spins from Spotify. There's no shade to Spotify, but it's just numbers. You get 10,000 streams from Spotify versus my 100,000, and not a mention of Pandora placements. And it's like, you don't care about the stream. Yeah, like, we're giving you the placements. So what are we talking about?
No, this is, so hold up. It's a few things. It's a few things because and this is not just for the DSP side, it's also true with publications. So just because it's like a legacy, the biggest publication, but you gonna mention that, but it's your local newspaper or it's someone like more emerging, you're not gonna talk about it.
You don't.
Meanwhile, these are curators and writers and what have you who actually care about you and putting in that work. You had somebody in your corner who was holding it down, and it's radio silence. That's not it. It's not it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good point. No, that's a really good point. I'm glad that you said that too, because it's like, dang, you don't even, to the awareness, whether they are aware or not that it is being done on, you know what I'm saying? But that's again, to that same point of like, I don't know how we get around that. I often think about this often, like, how are we about to get around the fact that there's so many places to go for similar things, but they're all giving us a different experience. Like, I don't know, I can't, so I just partake. I just listen to all of them, I guess. But so let me ask this, because we're talking about you putting on a lot of artists, especially emerging artists. How do you stay up to date? Like, how are you following, like, how do you stay up to date on the new emerging artists? Like, what's your routine if you have one, or like, how do you just stay, like, how do you keep your ears to the streets?
Girl, I'm chronically online. I am not gonna lie to you. Um, I am very passionate about the entertainment space, Black music, and where it's going. So I understand if I want to remain impactful in this space, I have to be on top of everything moving. So I'm listening to other curators' playlists. I'm looking at what other curators are talking about. I'm looking at what artists are posting. I follow most artists back. So when they're sharing their music, whether they pitch it or not, I'm listening to it. If I don't like it, I just don't engage. Um, so even that, it's like people be thinking I don't be checking their music. I like, no, I listened to it. I just didn't think it was good. I'm not about to engage with that. And that's no shade, but I like there's so much music coming out that I don't like to give attention to things I don't like.
Ah, preach! No.
Talk your shit.
Okay,
talk your shit.
This soundbite is going to be posted. We're pinning this to the Twitter especially because I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. Y'all out here giving 100,000 likes and 10,000 retweets to artists y'all don't like. Who do y'all like? Put some people y'all like. Y'all, if you don't preach the gospel.
Stop following the trend and you don't even listen. You don't even like the music that you promote. Come on.
No, because
it's
people
okay to be different.
Amplify things
it's
they
okay
hate
to not have
and
a
they will
popular
never do
opinion.
it for artists they like, and I appreciate you.
It's okay to not have a popular
if I don't
opinion.
Like it, I don't engage. I
don't... Literally. And that's my programming philosophy. Literally, that's how I curate my timeline. Like I don't. So when we talk about tastemaking, it extends there too. Like I don't engage with shit I don't like. Like I might talk shit about a type of person I don't like if I'm annoyed, but I'm not gonna be posting about I don't like this person's outfit. I don't like how this person acts. I don't like this video. I don't do that because it doesn't really add value to anything. And in that same vein, where music is concerned, frankly, I don't necessarily really do music reviews either because I just feel like if I don't really like your music, me telling you, even if I'm giving you the most valid critique, you're just going to view me as a hater anyway. So what is the point? Like for the majority of artists, if I don't like something of theirs, it's never going to be received the way that I intend it to be received. So I just don't engage with things I don't like, period.
And put that on a shirt.
See what I'm saying?
Put that on a shirt.
We have a whole fashion house at this point. We got shirt names. We got. It's just a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. But
yeah, no, I find music online for those. I just listen to a lot of things. Pandora also, like I told you, the algorithm. If you utilize Pandora for artists the right way, like I couldn't give you a lesson on that, but we have AMP online where you can do office hours and learn how to use the back end of Pandora so that your music gets picked up by the algorithm. So a lot of times I'm literally just listening to different stations and the algorithm will play a song that I haven't heard yet. It's like, oh, we should be programming that. That's good. So that as well, I was on Spotify does it too, where it'll play you things that you might like and I'll find songs there and throw them in rotation on Pandora. So I'm literally just always engaging with music, whether it be social, playlists, radio. Like I just love music. So any way that I can inject it in my veins, that's what I'm doing.
I'm curious to know.
You know, I love that you spoke about that back-end tool, AMP, for artists, because there's a lot of these, right? And I think we live in a time where everything is more accessible than ever. You can hit up the curators for Pandora, Spotify, Apple Music. You can talk to the CEO of AudioMac. It's like everybody is like right there, and the tools are also available. So I think it's also important that people keep that in mind. Like before you get all up in arms about is your stuff being playlisted and this, that, and third, do you even have an account?
Girl, and the like, crazy part is the answer to your question is no. A lot of the times when I'm talking in particular with when it comes to Pandora, a lot of these artists they don't manage their accounts. They don't even have like ownership over their artist profile. So it's like, you're asking me to do X, Y, and Z, and you're not even like, or even like on their, whenever they're post, I forgot what the name of the link is, but when they have the links with all the different, distribution services, when they release their songs, a lot of times Pandora's not even listed there. So it's like, you want me to playlist you, but you're not even sharing that your song's on Pandora. Like that happens a lot.
Wait, I'm
You'd be
curious.
surprised.
Y'all
Yeah,
better
no, I'm
check your
curious.
distributors and make sure it's
And
getting
that's
sent
what
to
I
the
was
right
about to
stores. Because,
say. Like, I'm curious as to what do you think from not like a, I mean, if this is insider, then you can't respond, then fine, whatever. But what do you think from like an inside perspective? Like, what are you? What do you guys feel like that is rooted in? Like, what is that? Why is that happening?
To be frank, it might literally just be that it's being missed unintentionally, but I personally feel like Pandora's reputation is pretty washed. And I think that is due to just a lack of, like, I don't think they built a strong enough brand to compete with the brands of Spotify and Apple. Like, Apple is dumping a lot of money into branding. Spotify is dumping a lot of money into branding and making sure that listeners know that they are discovery platforms. Like, you can come to those platforms to discover new music. And I don't think Pandora has leaned in as effectively as they could have over the years. I generally just think Pandora kind of washed themselves out the convo. And I came in too late to kind of like put any influence in that. Cause I feel like now, like, I'm seeing a lot more teams, they are pressing for Pandora placements. Like, they see the work that we're doing now. Like, I'm not gonna say it's just me, but I do, like, I would be lying to myself to say that I'm not a heavy piece of why that's happening. Because people are talking about Pandora now. Like, them playlist covers matter. Whereas I don't think they necessarily did a couple years ago because it kind of just got washed. And I think a lot of it is Pandora's audience is really old, and that's just the numbers. That's not even shade. Pandora's audience is really old, which is also why it's hard to break talent on the platform a lot of the times, because they're not trying to hear emerging talent. They want to hear the Chris Browns, the John Legends, like, they want to hear the established legacy acts. Which is also why when your music does well on the platform, like, you should probably lean in because it's hard to break on that platform. But yeah, I think on some ends it might be unintentional, and then on the other end of it, I do think it is intentional because people just don't feel like Pandora is relevant. So why do we need to distribute there?
I get that.
man, one thing I want to say though for people who are watching and listening is that it's not just about the platform, it's about the people. So when you find yourself a curator or programmer like Yan who's in your corner, make sure you're tapped in, because the way things work in the music industry, people don't necessarily even stay with the same company for 5-10 years. It's like, you might have been like, oh, this person doesn't matter because they're at Pandora. Okay, well, if they end up at YouTube, you're gonna care, right? Or if they end up at somewhere else, you're gonna care. Or if they have the opportunity to playlist you where they're at, you're gonna care. So it's like, either way, especially if you're upcoming, do not take any of this stuff for granted. Even if you're only getting 500 plays on Pandora, that's 500 more than 0. So
Yeah,
absolutely.
Don't take any of this stuff for granted.
And then to your point earlier, in this same vein, even with the writers, I see that a lot too. Like, when these writers are writing about your music, you should be promoting that just as heavily as you would a Billboard feature or a Rolling Stone feature or any of these other platforms that are sharing your music, because these writers, the same way the music industry works, they can end up at any one of these platforms. And when you dub them because they're not at whatever legacy platform that you prefer to have your work featured on, once they get there, like, what is there, like, why would they want to share your work once they're at that point when you curved them before? And
it's like, yeah, don't forget that everybody. I'm sorry, Nipsey Hussle quotes often come to my mind, but don't forget that everybody
girl,
is on their
I'm a Nipsey
marathon.
Hussle #1 fan.
Die hard. Me too, girl. I already know. I peeped. Yeah, die hard. We relate. Because it's like, what? Everybody's on their own marathon, right? So I feel like that's the part that gets forgotten about. Is like, okay, I'm an artist and I'm trying to make it and I'm trying to get my notoriety and this and that and this and that. Don't forget that, like, this writer is also on the same type of time. So where they are right now may not be their landing point. Like, everybody's trying to get it. Everybody's trying to achieve something. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, they may be at the local newspaper right now, but what does that mean? They could be writing for Vogue later. They could be writing for all type they could be in all type of whatever. Who knows? Whatever publication. Like they could be anywhere. You know what I'm saying? Same thing on the team tip. You know, somebody could be a junior manager somewhere over here, and then in 2 years they are the head of somebody something. You know what I mean? So I think
the
that's
industry is too
key.
small to be
It's
like
too small.
playing ego games. And it's like if you have
Child.
one person in your corner, that's one person that supports you in your journey. It's like don't
lean
take
into
that for granted.
For granted. What? Because before that one person, it was zero. So what we doing? Like.
And I also want to clarify too, right? So one thing that kind of like in this conversation that gets misconstrued a lot is what we're saying, meaning you need to ask Kiss. And that's not the message here. The message here is show gratitude and appreciation for people who are showing you love. Like, because they don't have to, and they're doing that genuinely. So why not show that love in return, or just appreciation and gratitude back? And that does not mean ass kissing. That literally is just thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate you supporting my work.
Goes a long way.
Thank you goes a long way.
People want to be appreciated. People want to be recognized. And it's true. And it's funny because I think, you know, especially if you're like an upcoming artist that's watching, the same way you want people to pay attention to you, everybody else wants to be paid attention to too.
Period.
Everyone wants to feel like they matter.
The bars today.
So
this episode right here, okay.
It's really the opposite of ass kissing if you think about it. Because like I already looked out when no one else was looking. So the least you could be is like, yo, high five.
Right. Thank you. You're welcome.
Right. I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking for
literally nothing. I already did the dude. Like I amplified you. So I don't know. Yeah, for sure. So we talked about, like, you gave the example of, like, you know, how, and it's funny when you were saying, like, you know, Pandora, its audience, I'm thinking to myself, my first thought was like, well, dang, that is kind of crazy because all my aunties listen to Pandora. And then you were like, it's older people. And I was like, oh, well, damn. But on that same vein, when it comes to this, right? So as you've discovered, because you just named some stuff that was like, okay, you know, people want to listen to what they want to listen to. How do you balance catering? And you've talked about it a little bit, but how do you balance, like, individual listeners' like preference with trying to introduce them to new music? Like, is it just like, I'm gonna take the shot and I'm gonna program this right here, and if it don't work, like you said, the algorithm will let me know immediately and it's just gonna do what it's gonna do? Like, can you talk to us a little bit about that?
So there's two ways. Our editorials are essentially created for, what am I trying to say? Age groups, right? So we have R&B soul, which is targeted at, I would say, 25 to 40. Indie R&B is for the younger listener as well as the curious listener. So that could be a 34-year-old, but it's usually younger listeners, anywhere between 18 to like 24. And then we also have like today's R&B and hip hop hits. So that audience ranges from the youth to the older listener because these are hits. So it's whatever's on radio is going to be on that station. So that's one layer to the programming strategy. Like, we're looking at what literally the listenership is for those stations, and we're putting songs there. So I might program, let's say Fabo drops a song. Fabo's one of my favorite artists, by the way. Everyone who follows me knows. But Fabo, he has a very traditional R&B sound for the most part. Like, his voice sounds traditional, but he does a lot of trap soul. So his music might not necessarily work on an R&B soul station, but it would work on trap soul, indie R&B, today's R&B and hip hop hits, new R&B. So we're literally just figuring out where it would fit based on the listenership. And then the second layer is because we operate like radio, we have rotations on those stations. So we have power rotation, which is the heaviest rotation. We have medium and light. So if it's a new song and an emerging artist, it's likely going to go in the light bucket. So you might not hear it often within an hour. But if the score, going back to that score, if it scores highly while it's in the light bucket, then we'll move it up to the medium or the power bucket so that listeners hear it more. So not only are we programming based off of listenership on the station, we're also programming by rotation. So the more familiar names are likely going in the power buckets and the medium buckets or the heavy buckets, whereas the newer stuff is going to go in the light bucket until it scores well.
Again, I appreciate you explaining kind of everything that's happening like on the back end, because if you don't work as a programmer, you're pretty much in the dark.
Well, that's
about
the
all
thing,
these
right? So
things.
this is how Pandora works. I can't speak to a Spotify because Spotify and Apple, they create playlists. So I don't know what their programming philosophy is on based on like it's probably like the better songs go at the top and then the things that they're testing go at the bottom, I would assume. But Pandora literally operates like radio, so we can do a lot more with what we're trying to do.
And that's
No,
another
that's
thing to
fire.
keep in mind too. It's like all these things work differently. So like you said, a Pandora is not the same as how a YouTube works or how Spotify works, or everybody got their own
Literally,
their own
every single
algorithms, their
platform
own
has
ways
their
to
own
measure these
thing.
types of things. And
yeah, it's definitely
really great
super
point, too.
insightful. Yeah, for sure.
So, Yan, you've dropped so many gems today. Like, I am learning, I am taking notes. Like, my eyes have been open. I'm just like, oh my gosh, wow, like, got it. The things I learned about you, your role, the company, I'm just like, whoa. Because you know how it is, you be a mutual with somebody on social media. You're like, okay, I kind of know what's going on. I've seen this piece and that piece, but I'm just like, whoa, today my mind has been blown. But what is one final gem or maybe gems that you like to share with rising creative professionals, whether like they're artists or people who want to be executives like yourselves, when it comes to getting to their bag while chasing their dreams? Because you already know, like, we want to do both. We want to have the job or have the opportunity, but we also want to get paid. So how do people do that? Any tips?
My biggest tip, which is it kind of aligns with everything I said here, is you need to figure out who you are. You really need to figure out who you are and not who you want to be like, and lean into that in every way that you can. Like, whether that be the events you're showing up to, because you don't need to be in every room. And I feel like a lot of us, we get into this space and feel like we have to go to every single event and pop out to every single show and every single party and dinner and this and that. And it's like, no, you don't. If that doesn't align with you and who you are authentically, you don't need to be there. Like, you need to be at the stuff that matters and the things that align with you. And that also is how you should show up online. Like, when people see you online in the digital platform, like, they're reading your thoughts. So like, how are you showing up? And is that authentic to who you actually are? Which is why I don't share the things I don't like, because I'm not a hater. Like, I don't want that associated with who I am. So I'm never going to be online talking about things I don't like, because I want people to associate me with someone who shows love. And I think when you are authentically yourself, you draw in a way larger audience than you could ever imagine, because there's so many different parts of you as a human that so many different people are going to connect with. Like, today I could be talking about my relationship with God and how I feel about this thing that's going on in my life, and somebody might have needed that message today, but another person who follows me for music might not give a fuck about nothing I'm talking about that has to do with God. But then when I tweet about music tomorrow, all those people who follow me for music, they're going to be like, yo, that music you just posted was fire. And they're going to engage with that. And the next day I'm going to post about the NBA game that's on, and all the niggas that's following me are going to be like, yo, she knows what she talking about. And then the next day I'm going to post a Nipsey Hussle quote, and everybody who's from LA going to be like, facts. So you got to just be yourself, because you, the human, are going to attract all the possibilities, a lot of them unimaginable, when you're just being yourself, because there's so many different things you can do that you won't even realize. And a lot of stuff won't even be like, let's say I'm trying to be a musician and I'm tweeting about the sneakers I like. You might land a sneaker partnership because somebody saw that you really love sneakers, and that has nothing to do with your music career. But now you're getting a bag in the sneaker space because you showed up as yourself. But I feel like it's really just that. Like, you have to find who you are and really just lean into that as heavily as possible, because there's, like, I hate when I see people talk about things being oversaturated, because there's nobody else like you. So yes, there might be 50 million people doing music, but like 50 million people don't have all the same interests as you. So an opportunity that would arise for you might not ever arise for them because you're a human first. And I think at the core of what I'm trying to say is you are not the title that you're trying to pursue. You are a human. And you really have to learn how to be a human first if you really want to make it and stay in whatever career path you're trying to be in. Because once you lose your humanity, yeah, shit is going downhill from there. Because what makes you different from the next person if you don't have your humanity? There's a bunch of people who work in marketing. There's a bunch of people who work as execs. There's a bunch of people who are musicians. So what else is there to you? And why should we care?
What else is there to you, and why should we care? God,
look, she got us yelling today.
And
we ain't even sing yet.
Anyone who wants to build even. And this applies to anyone who even wants to build 1% of a platform. If you want anyone to give a damn about what you're doing, you better give these motherfuckers a reason. Okay. And that's by being your goddamn self.
These motherfuckers need one, okay? No, Yan came with the came with the bars. If I had a wig on, it would be snatched off.
Came with the whole jewelry store. Fuck a gem.
Oh my God.
Came with the whole jewelry store. Fuck a gem is a bar. No, for real. Thank you so much.
Everyone was a rapper once, right? Everyone from New York was a rapper once.
At least once. I already know. We already know what you own, girl. You be ghostwriting for all the rappers. We know. Don't lie. Don't lie. It's cool. It's cool. So, Yan, tell us, what's tea? What's tea, sis? So, how can me and Lottie support you? How can the Hear Us Out community support you? How can we amplify what you're doing? First of all, everybody download Pandora and stop playing and engage with the app. That was my own little plug right there. You see that?
And also download AMP. Like, stop playing. Get your
right. And then get the help that you need.
And granted, yes. Because once you get on AMP, there's a lot of tools you can utilize to get yourself in the algorithm and getting spins without a curator. So definitely do that. And I know a lot of people don't even realize we have like an artist account kind of thing. Because to my point, I feel like Spotify has Spotify for artists. Apple has Apple for artists. So it's like, why wouldn't y'all call this Pandora for artists? But that's neither here nor there. But we have a platform. It's called AMP. You should use it. And outside of that, y'all can just follow me on socials. I'm Yan Snead everywhere. And every single week, usually on Fridays, but I think I want to start doing it Saturdays, I do a new music listening session for about an hour to 2 hours where I'm just going through all of my favorite songs that just released that week, as well as a couple recently released music that might not have made it to the following or the previous week's rotation. And then I have a community on Twitter called Bring Your Own Taste, where you can share all the music that you like, as well as find new artists. So join the community, join the live session, share it, and thank you guys. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. And also, I appreciate you taking the time to be hosting listening sessions, because I'll be tired after all that programming. I'll be like, go listen to the damn playlist. Don't talk to me. So.
Don't talk to me.
And I just feel like it's just an added, it's literally just an added thing. Like, because we're also programming all the mainstream stuff, and sometimes that's not necessarily my taste. So I think the listening sessions that I do gives people an opportunity to hear, like, this is the bag that I'm in. So if you hear this stuff programmed, that's because I'm leaning into this.
Fire.
So yeah,
I love
check it out.
So fire.
Thank you.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining us. Oh
Seriously.
my gosh.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yes.
I appreciate y'all for this is a great convo.
Thank you.
We love it.
Listen, we always say it's about the guests. Like, y'all, we just bouncing off you. So you give us the goods, we're like, whoa, okay.
We love it. All right, y'all. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Hear Us Out. Like Yan said, follow her on all socials. Tap in with the music. Tap in with Pandora. You never know. You might be on a playlist and you don't even know it. So don't sleep on them, okay?
You might have already been programmed. That's just what's crazy to me. Just to reiterate, you might have already been programmed, not even know. So how you gonna tap in? That's it.
Tap in, okay? We love it. We love it. Thank you so much. All right, y'all. We'll see you on the next episode. Peace.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Hear Us Out, the Music and Media Blueprint, brought to you by River and Lottie. If you love what you heard, hit that subscribe button. And of course, make sure to join our Lay Low community for exclusive updates and behind-the-scenes access. Now remember, friends, keep going, stay motivated, and stay inspired. You got this. We believe in you. See you next time.